Pride and Prejudice and Zombies is based on the book by Seth Grahame Smith, which was in turn inspired by the Jane Austen novel Pride and Prejudice. Now, this is the second of Smith's books to be adapted to the big screen. The first was, of course, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, which was a terrible movie despite the book being so damn good. That being said, I went into my early screening of this film cautiously optimistic. I wanted it to be great, but I really wasn't holding my breath after this abortion either. Pride and Prejudice and Zombies is a little cluttered at times and does skimp on the action in some areas, but still manages to retain the story and fun nature of its source novel. This movie is literally everything you'd expect by looking at the title. It's Pride and Prejudice, with zombies in it. It's the Jane Austen story of tangled relationships between lovers of different social classes, with zombies thrown dead in the middle. This movie involves gorgeous women in corsets, kicking zombie ass. If you can't deal with the fact that this is a tongue-in-cheek thing, don't bother seeing it. Lily James is great in the leading role of Elizabeth Bennet. I loved this actress in Cinderella. She's even better here. The character is incredibly likable, and her interactions with Mr. Darcy are one of the many highlights of the film. When she's fighting, whether it be with her fists or her words, she is badass. And these two do have remarkable chemistry that does sell the story. The rest of the cast does a good job too. Matt Smith is hilarious as Mr. Collins, who thinks he's this suave, sophisticated, awesome guy, when in reality, he's a royal awkward asshole. His moments are so awkward, it's really hard not to laugh when he's on screen. As far as keeping true to the source novel goes, this movie actually did a fairly good job. A few things are changed, some characters are left out entirely, and some things were obviously done better in the book, but in all fairness, this was a damn good adaptation despite all of that. I was so shocked at how faithful this was in the long run. Now, that being said, this movie is not without its problems. For one, I was expecting much more zombie action in this. There's enough to satisfy, and when it's on screen, it's fantastic. But when I see a movie with zombies in the title, I want a lot more of them. Not to mention, there was definitely more in the book. However, there is something that does redeem that for me, and that is how the zombies are portrayed in this film. I went into this expecting the zombies to just be the normal, generic, flesh-eating monsters that we see in most zombie flicks, but this film doesn't go that route. However, that's not the case here at all, as the zombies are actually seen to have personalities. They set traps, they can manipulate, they can torment, they can think. There's a whole subplot with zombies that are living in a church and eating off animal flesh so that the zombie hunters will leave them alone. The director, Bruce Steers, did much more with the zombies than I expected him to do in this film. It was a pretty unique take on these creatures that I hadn't seen. But my biggest issue with this film, and sadly it is a big one, is that it completely wastes Charles Dance and Lena Headey. Both of them. These are two fantastic powerhouse actors that needed more screen time in this. Although, to be fair, they got more screen time in this than Gwendolyn Christie got in Force Awakens. Fuck was that shit? I mean, don't get me wrong, when they're on screen, they're awesome. But the film needed more of them. My god, what is it with Hollywood these days wasting actors from Game of Thrones? Or, while we're on the subject, putting Game of Thrones actors in movies I don't want them in. I'm sorry, I'm just not seeing this, nah, I'm sorry, I don't see it. However, despite those issues, I did have a blast with this movie. It's a well-paced, well-directed, and well-acted spin on a classic story. Could some things have been done better? Absolutely. But for what I got, there really wasn't any moment where I was bored or unsatisfied. Hell, I didn't even notice the few problems I did have with this movie until I started writing the review and had to think about it more. It's respectful not just to the parody, but to the Jane Austen story as well. The Pride and Prejudice story is really never put on the back burner in favor of zombie violence. Pride and Prejudice is a great story on its own, and in my opinion, having zombies thrown right in the middle of it is one hell of a damn bonus. In the end, I'm giving Pride and Prejudice and Zombies an A-. So what is your favorite zombie movie? Please tell me in the comments below, and please subscribe if you want to see more.